Okay. So welcome everybody. Happy to be sharing space with all of you. Thank you for joining us today for the introduction of the Dream Act Service Incentive Grant, also known as DSIG. So for today's presentation, it is in collaboration with the CSUN Undocumented Student Success Task Force and the Dream Center. So we'll go into who the Undocumented Student Success Task Force is and a little bit of the overview of what we do in just a little bit. But my name is Daniela. I'm the manager for the Dream Center and my pronouns are she, ella. For today's presentation, we are going to be again going over this, the CSUN Undocumented Student Success Task Force, who we are and what our goals are. An overview of what DSIG is, providing information on eligibility, service projects. We are going to also be going through what avenues you have to do in order to be to enroll in the program. So the grant application payment request. We'll also be detailing some limitations, providing some resources. Overall, our goal for today's presentation is to be able to provide some sort of understanding of what projects would be eligible here at CSUN and how you can potentially create some opportunities for students within your respective areas.
Hi, so I am just want to introduce you all to the Undocumented Student Success Task Force. My name is Nyla Jolly-Dalfarez. I work here on campus in the Career Center. But the task force, we're an advisory committee. We advise the campus, the university, and it's through the Vice President for Student Affairs and the Dean of Students on matters pertaining to the effective delivery of programs and services to our undocumented students and students from mixed status families here at CSUN. And it's good, important work. We are here to promote a university environment that's welcoming and fosters success among undocumented students, and we support a variety of strategies toward that. And you can see some of our responsibilities that are here. Next slide. And we just wanted to indicate and show that we are a cross-campus, cross-divisional, holistic group. We are always looking for more participants. If you are interested in supporting the work, we definitely welcome you. There are a few of us who are in the room. If you have questions, more questions about the task force a little bit later, please let us know.
Today, we're presenting on DSIG, or the California Dream Act Service Incentive Grant Program. Everyone always asks, what does it stand for? That's what it stands for. This is a financial opportunity for undocumented students to actually get compensated for a volunteer or community service that they perform at CSUN, pretty much at any Cal Grant eligible institution, as well as certain nonprofit organizations. So if you're here on behalf of your unit, or if you're here on behalf of a community-based organization, there are opportunities to actually tap into California funding, right, to actually provide compensated opportunities for students. And one of the reasons why we wanted to have this workshop is this program has existed for about a year and it's severely underutilized. People don't even know about it. And from meetings that Daniela has attended, we also know that there's a large misunderstanding in terms of who's eligible, how to actually implement and go about the process. So what we wanted to do here at CSUN is really just get our campus on the same page, right? And show that this is an opportunity that we could really take advantage of to really serve some of the undocumented students that we work with, right, on a daily basis. Certain undocumented students are eligible for up to $4,500 every year if they do 300 hours of community service. That is the equivalent of about 10 hours a week, sometimes a little less depending on when the service starts. Which is something that a lot of the students do anyways. Sometimes they put in this amount of labor, right, for jobs that pay way, way less, right? And so we really wanted to inform our campus constituent as well as others. I know that there's some people on this Zoom meeting who are not from our campus, but You know, we want everyone to be able to know about this and take opportunities to make opportunities for students. Students are eligible for funding for up to 8 semesters or 12 quarters. And we'll talk about this later, but there are more than 1,600 available grants under the DSIG program. It seems like a lot, but when you consider the number of undocumented students who are actually eligible for this program, you'll see that it's very limited. But knowing that it's really underutilized, here at CSUN, fortunately, we have a comprehensive Dream Center. We really want to take advantage and position our students to be able to pursue this opportunity.
So as in terms of eligibility, it would be students who have completed and submitted a California Dream Act application. So they definitely have to have one on file and have submitted before the March 2nd deadline, the priority deadline. So that's step one. They also have to have an active Cal Grant award, meaning that they are eligible for either Cal Grant A or B, which is what references back to what Dr. Buenavista mentioned, right? That it is very limited to who would be eligible for the program. They have to also have a sufficient unmet need, and that's determined again per student by the campus through financial aid, which we'll go into a little bit later. Be enrolled in a Cal Grant eligible school, which again, CSUN does make the qualifications for that, so that shouldn't be an issue. And must meet satisfactory academic progress. So their grades must be meet within the SAP requirements in order to be eligible for the grant. And so really want to highlight that in the event that a student, their status may change within the time frame that they are enrolled at CSUN. So they may be undocumented and are in the process of adjusting their status. If their status does change, unfortunately, they would no longer be eligible for the program. This is specifically only for students who are eligible for the California Dream Act. So also keep that in mind whenever, in the event that you have a student that may be changing their eligibility throughout their time at CSUN. And so what kind of service counts? So again, they have to be a Cal Grant eligible school, which CSUN is an approved site. They have to be a designated nonprofit through a 501c3. Not necessarily something that y'all need to worry about, to be quite honest, because CSUN is an approved site. It's just a matter of being able to provide these opportunities within your respective areas, which we'll go into a little bit later. But it's always easier to submit the paperwork via email. So far, through my experience, CSAC has been processing the paperwork pretty fast via email, so it's always better to go in that route. Service performed cannot be advocacy or political in nature or religious. Service must be within the field of study or enhancing the students' leadership opportunities within the campus. If for some reason an organization isn't listed on the list, or if a student wants to perform service through an organization that isn't listed on the approved sites, the organization can submit paperwork in order to be added. But again, that's an additional process. That's in the event that you are from an outside entity and want to provide an opportunity for a student and aren't within the institution of CSUN. That would be an avenue that you can take. But again, if you are a staff employee or a faculty member within the institution of CSUN, it would just be a matter of having an opportunity available because CSUN is already an approved site. So not something that you necessarily have to worry about. But if you don't have an opportunity available within your area and are interested in helping a student find an opportunity, then that would be something to look into as well. Next slide. And so what types of projects are acceptable, right? Because we kind of mentioned a little bit about what is not acceptable. So again, it needs to be related within their field of study or serves to further their community service or community need. CSUN is an approved site. Some of the areas that we've seen is a student doing stem cell research or any sort of research with a faculty member within their respective college or area on campus. For example, I currently have a DSIG fellow, and one of the areas that she helps me out with is creating awareness and content on the free legal services available to CSUN faculty, staff, and students on campus. So those are the project-based that she helps me out with and takes lead on. So again, the areas that would be acceptable are project-based opportunities. And she creates her own hours. So she tells me when she's available. The only reason that I would have her meet with me more directly is whenever we have specific legal events that I need her to be in attendance to. But that's not necessarily a shift that she clocks in and out for. It's more of part of her program and part of the projects that she leads.
I can offer, did you want me to offer another example?
Yeah.
I mean, really think about when it talks about related to the field of study, you can really get not creative, but it's easier to make that alignment than you might think. So for example, we have a student who is a business administration major, and they are doing a project related to our Maddie's Closet. And Maddie's Closet is it's a service where we provide workplace attire to students, and that business management student is helping us set up the calendaring system, helping us organize the running and the coordinating of Maddie's Closet, and so that perfectly aligns with their business major. Or we have a student who is a videographer, and you know, they're working on a project that helps us with Maddie's Closet. So in that way, they're helping us provide basic needs service to campus, providing that workplace attire, and it perfectly aligns with their majors. So it can be easier than you might think.
Right. And something else I want to add when it comes to service performed should not be considered formal employees. So that's one of the things that I've actually seen from other campuses, where they're actually hiring these students as formal employees through HR, and that's not something that we should be doing. After this slide, Carla, our financial aid representative, is going to be going a little bit more into that, but just know that they should not be formal employees. This is a program that is through the state, it's through the California Student Aid Commission, and it's through financial aid. So they should not be having to do any HR paperwork. And again, their duties need to be completely different to what your formal student employees have. So they cannot be covering the front desk and any other tasks that are for formal employees. These are project-based opportunities.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go over the process here at financial aid from the moment the student applies for the grant, and we, kind of follow them through the end of it, which is them receiving payment. If you can just go to the next slide. There we go. So the process is fairly simple for the student in terms of, again, applying. There is a form. Do you mind going to the next slide so they can take a look at the form, and we'll go back to this one. So there's two applications that the student will submit to CSAC. This is the grant application, and the student pretty much will just complete their information, which is section 1. Section 2 is where we come in, financial aid, and we will, if you can see those little check boxes there on section 2, we're just verifying, making sure that the student has the requirements that CSAC has established for the program, which is the 4,500 at least amount of unmet need, financial unmet need. We'll fill this out, and we'll keep a copy for ourselves, and the student will then take it to the organization of choice and submit it to CSAC. I think Daniela mentioned that they prefer for this to be emailed, and I have seen where, it works rather quickly. They can also mail it out, but I think email, obviously now it's like the form, the way of just submitting documents and so on. So that's really helpful for the students because they're already online on the internet, on the web, right? So it's an easy process for them. Next slide, please. Once they submit this form, the grant application form, and I'll show the payment request form. Again, they're very similar. So sometimes students will come in and they'll bring the payment request form first, and we'll have to say, oh no, you brought in the wrong form, because it's really the same form. It just has a different name on the top. So they'll submit the grant form. Once they are approved, CSEC will send them a welcome email to the student. And we will also get an email just saying the financial aid administrator that signed the form will also get an email saying we received the form from, student. And that's kind of it. It's more of a informational for us here at the office. And once that they've completed their hours, then that's when they will submit the payment request form. Next slide, please. So this is the payment request. So if you notice, it's the exact same form. They've just changed the name at the top. Also, the other thing is the academic year. This is, again, a lot of students will not look at the academic year and we'll send them back and say, oh, you brought in the wrong year, or they'll get confused. But obviously, we want to keep an eye on that, just because, if they're submitting the wrong form to CSEC, CSEC is probably going to reject them, or the process will just become lengthier for them to get approved for the program. But this is the payment request form. Again, the office financial administrator will certify, again, if the student has the unmet need of at least 4,500. Daniela mentioned earlier, they have to have meet SAP requirements. So we are looking at that as well. And they will again submit this form to CSEC for them to request the payment, and that be sent to our office here. Next slide. As students work through their hours, as they are, whether they're volunteering here at CSUN or at some other organization, we, on the back scenes of it all, we're continuously working on rosters. So one, the student does have to have a paid Cal Grant or active Cal Grant. So that does have to be paid out to the student before they can receive any of these funds, DSIG funds. So we are working on those rosters on a weekly basis. We are reporting enrollment for Cal Grant, obviously, and also because they do need that halftime enrollment as well. So we are constantly communicating with CSEC. They are keeping tabs on that student so that when the time comes and payment needs to be made, they've already kept track on any information that we sent on behalf of the student for that particular semester or academic year. Last but not least, once that payment is, the form is submitted, the payment request form, and we've already paid any Cal Grant that they have or may be eligible for, then they will send us the funds, and we will disperse those directly to the students. Next slide, please. And I think that covers pretty much what financial aid does here. It's really, we haven't had too many students for the current year. So, we're obviously hopeful that students are applying and taking advantage of these opportunities. So I'm hoping that for 23-24, we will see those payment request forms, or just students coming to our office and asking about the program.
So this kind of brings us to the limitations that we definitely think are important to mention to you all. It doesn't assist all undocumented students. As we mentioned before, they must be a California Dream Act student, so they must have met the priority deadline. But also please note that in order to be eligible for the California Dream Act, they also have to be classified as an 8540 student, which would be a California resident. And so they also need to meet those requirements. If you don't know if the student is eligible, again, just talk to us or talk to the Dream Center or talk to financial aid. It is definitely, we just don't want to create false promises for students where we say this is something you qualify for, and then later on find out that they don't meet the qualifications for X, Y, and Z reason. So making sure that we have that understanding that not all undocumented students are eligible. more specifically, I think when it comes to transfer students, most transfer students, when they come into CSUN, they have already used up their Cal Grant eligibility. You know, they tend to be non-traditional students. So for the most part, when they transfer students come into CSUN, they're only eligible for SUG, which is a state university grant. Although they are eligible for financial aid, because they're not eligible for Cal Grant A or B any longer, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of this program. So most students who are eligible tend to be within their first about maybe 3 years in their academic journey. Again, this doesn't necessarily pertain to all transfer students. It's not necessarily an umbrella, but it's just more to keep it on your radar, because we don't want to, again, create false promises for students. As Dr. Buenavista mentioned earlier, it's only about a little bit over 1,600 grants available across, 375 schools. And here at CSUN, we do have one of the higher number of undocumented students. We have about 900 to 1,000. So, that just gives you some context. But again, not all of them are eligible.
And just to reiterate, we're hosting this workshop because on that list of eligible organizations are the Cal Grant eligible institutions such as CSUN. So literally any faculty, staff can create an opportunity on campus for a student to take advantage of, right? But we also know that many of you might be partnered with community-based organizations who, you lean on for maybe internship opportunities or volunteer opportunities with students. We know that sometimes the students themselves are already volunteering, and this might be an opportunity to figure out a way to actually have them access funds for the work that they're already doing. But again, a limitation is that some of the organizations that we're affiliated with might be more grassroots in nature. They might not be recognized, for example, as a 501c. They can actually check their eligibility by going through the application process. And again, you'll have access to this PowerPoint after this workshop, but there is a link to the actual application for service organizations to see if they're eligible to provide opportunities. So for those of you who do a lot of that community-based work, I would highly recommend, looking at that application. The other way is if you're working with a community-based organization, you yourself could serve as a sponsor, right? But you would be the one responsible for overseeing and supervising that student. One of the difficulties about this grant is it's new, right? It's relatively new. As Carla described, we have very few students at CSUN who are taking advantage of the opportunity. And I would say statewide, right? Even the people who are in charge of implementing the process are not clear, right, in terms of how to implement this. So this is why we wanted to throw this workshop. There's really little support or oversight for this program. And when we were discussing this initiative on the task force level, we're really weary because we know that, research shows, experience shows that there are a lot of people who take advantage of folks who are undocumented. So, there is room for undocumented student exploitation. There's room for people who are intentioned, right, to create an opportunity, but might not have the background to appropriately work with undocumented students in a supportive way. So we want to offer, the task force and the Dream Center as a resource for people who are thinking about developing these opportunities. We actually want to work with you who have joined the workshop today, as well as your colleagues. If you're thinking about developing an opportunity, we want to actually work with you to, co-develop that opportunity, advertise that opportunity, and share with students so that we can do some good matching, right? So that students are not just, being taken advantage of because there's this opportunity that's available. Paul, is it okay if we take your question at the end? Yeah, okay, thank you. We're almost done. Daniela, you want to do this part or do you want me to go over it?
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it. So when we were thinking about doing this workshop, as you could see, it's really heavy with information, and it's taken us months to sort of figure everything out. So the way that we wanted to sort of roll out resourcing this particular program on campus is eventually we would like to have some sort of centralized hub, right, of opportunities for students to just go ahead, these opportunities be vetted, right, and students could trust that these are opportunities that would really center their learning, right? But in the meanwhile, we didn't want to not take advantage of the opportunity. So one of the things we wanted to do is, again, introduce the campus, you all, to this opportunity so you can initiate that process. But we also want to work with you. So besides this intro workshop, which is today, we're also in a month offering a workshop where we would like people who are interested in pursuing this program, developing an opportunity, or finding a student for an opportunity that you already have. In about a month, we're going to have another workshop where you can come in and actually bring your workshop your descriptions, right? So one of the things that the students have to do on their applications is actually describe the community service that they would perform with you, right? And so there's particular language that is better to communicate to CSAC, right? The California Student Aid Commission. There's language that's more acceptable. Again, they're looking for projects that are not political in nature. So we would help you but we know that working with undocumented students is inherently political, right? But we would work with you to make sure that the opportunities that you have or that you develop would be aligned with what CSAC is looking for, right? So in about a month, we'll announce earlier, but you could sign up to work with us to actually go over those descriptions for students to actually include in their applications. And then in late April and May, we'll actually follow up with you as a task force and see if this is an opportunity that you seriously want to pursue, so that we can start advertising to students so that they can start the application process in the summer, right? So we're really looking to roll out, all the applications are typically due before the beginning of the semester, right? Or at least that's the most ideal time to be able to get students signed up so that they could accomplish the hours that are required of them to then be eligible for the funding, right? So we want to follow up with you at the end of the year to see if you are pursuing an opportunity that would that we could assist you in identifying students. We hope that we could then advertise to students and that they could use the summer to sign up so that they can start the volunteer community service by the time the fall rolls around. Again, we just want to reiterate, this is kind of like a stipend opportunity that many students do, right? So they have to complete the hours first and then the money is released to them, right? But it's really important that they fulfill those hours. And so the earlier they can start in the semester, the better, right? So it better ensures that they could fulfill the hours and submit the paperwork in a good enough time that it could then be released to them where it's useful. If you have any questions, you could email me. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Buenavista from the Department of Asian American Studies. You can email me. You could email Daniela. You could also email Carla. We're relying on Carla a lot. She's assigned to this project in the financial aid office. So she is really important and central in making sure this program is successful on our campus. And with that, we are now going to open it up to questions.
I was going to jump in, but I saw that Jessica Romo had posted a question in the chat first before me.
Yeah, so again, yeah, one of the limitations is if you are working with a community-based organization or you know of a community-based organization that wants to take advantage of this opportunity and provide students with some volunteer service opportunities. One of the limitations is that they have to be vetted by CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission, right? And formally recognized as an organization that's existed for at least 2 years, is doing work that is, trustworthy and is not, in contention with the requirements that they have listed. One thing that they don't list, but we're very cognizant of, is many of the opportunities that even internships that we provide on campus, they have things like background checks that require fingerprinting. And those are really prohibitive opportunities for undocumented students. So if you are working with an organization that requires background checks, like formal background checks where fingerprints are mandated, for example, a lot of the opportunities that are in schools, like K-12 schools, for example, require background checks. Those might not be ideal opportunities for our students. It doesn't mean that a student might not want to pursue it, but if it is an opportunity that the student wants to pursue, we would really want to educate that student on what are some of the implications that are involved with going through formal background checks, right? That's a decision that they have to make, I think, on their own, because sometimes it might impact, their status at a federal level, right? Depending on who's in office and the different, legislation that is out. We don't want, a volunteer opportunity to potentially put somebody at risk because they wanted this opportunity but had to submit biometric information that they didn't know would be used in a particular way. So that's a really, really good question, Jessica. Thank you for that. Paul, I know that you had a question.
I have 3 questions.
Awesome.
So I as a technologist, I kind of think about these things from a systems frame. Is there a way that we can identify students using some of the criteria that you mentioned who might qualify and proactively reach out to them? But you said that we have a population of about 900 students who might qualify. I saw that Shalene and I see Diana Medina on the call. Maybe they can speak to that.
Sure. I mean, we do have the capabilities to run queries and target specific populations such as Dream, Cal Grant eligible. So that is something, but I know that Carla is the liaison at the moment working with this group. So I don't know if this is something that they've already discussed, and maybe Carla can address that question.
So no, we have not discussed it in detail. Obviously, one of the requirements is being a DREAM Act applicant and having the AB 540 status. So that's where we would, start off. Maybe, I think Daniela sees a lot of this population. So if that's kind of like the forefront where students are coming for assistance. I know a lot of our students go there for assistance with DREAM Act applications or workshops, or even the residency questionnaire. I know you help out with those a lot. So maybe that's something that, could be promoted there. But specifically at financial aid at the moment, no, we do not have something that's, I guess, targeting that answers your question. But, DREAM application and AB 540, that's what we really want, first and foremost, for these students.
And thank you, Paul, for asking that question. So yes, we do have a population of students that we could send information about the DSIG program, but the fact of the matter is we have to have the infrastructure in place for there to be volunteer opportunities. So if we sent out the notification to 900 students and 500 of them are interested, and we haven't formulated the structure to place those students, then it would be disheartening. In addition to that, we do have another program that we're launching right now in a pilot status, and that is the Learning Aligned Enrollment Employment Program, which they're parallel in some places, in some areas where they are targeted towards, well, the students that are 8540 can be part of this program, research opportunities, and receive, basically it's a state payroll system or a state work program. So we have 2 similar programs going at the same time, where one is opportunity for students that are in the same population to earn funds in research-based projects. And then we have a population of students that would be volunteering for that. And so we just want to make sure that we have everything in sync so that we're able to provide the students with the greatest information and greatest opportunity that best suits the situation that they're in.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, we'll send an email to all of these students, and thinking about it as a funnel. It's like the email that you send out is just the very top of the funnel. It's like I wasn't thinking about all these additional steps that would be involved. My
Right.
second question was, do we have a target number of students that you would like to reach?
We don't necessarily have a target number. I think we just want to be able to provide opportunities for our students that would want it and want it on campus more specifically, because these are questions that we're receiving all the time from students. Most of the students that are coming in are non-eligible for DACA anymore, which is provides them work authorization, right? So opportunities like these are some of the only ways that they're able to receive leadership, fellowship, research opportunities on campus. So we specifically want to focus on providing these opportunities for those students who don't have work authorization more specifically. And so, yeah, so which is why we're trying to provide this information space, right? We're trying to get folks who have these opportunities available within their areas for us to be able to present to them, to the students. And again, based off of what their interests are. If they are interested in the business department, okay, then there's an opportunity for you in the business department, and specifically connecting them with the necessary folks to get them signed up.
Yeah, I love that. And the third question I have is, do you know which of the 375 campuses that can receive these grant funds represent well in terms of the number of grants that are awarded?
So no, this from my understanding, no, this program is very new. Again, it's only been around for about a year, so we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. And as Dr. Buenavista mentioned earlier, you know, we've been looking at this program for months since the beginning of the semester, and we still have to always constantly go back to the website and make sure that we have a clear understanding of the process. But from the CSU level, I can tell you when attending the different CSU chancellors meetings with the other Dream Centers, I can tell you that the other Dream Centers are actively working on this, but it's a work in progress. Again, it's so new. Everybody's trying to figure out how to implement within their respective areas and finding opportunities for students on their campuses.
Yeah, the competitive part of me really wants to see CSUN at the top of that list.
Well,
That's
you
the
know,
hope.
yeah. Yeah, one of the things we were talking about was, you know, when we learned about the opportunity, we were actually trying to think of, you know, how can we create like a DSIG program, right? Particularly through the Dream Center, but the Dream Center is maxed out in terms of capacity. So we really wanted to educate our campus community to see how, you know, we can at least start having students take advantage of the opportunity by sharing with all of you, so that you can develop opportunities. And through the development of those opportunities, how can we centralize, like, you know, the information, you know, of those opportunities? That's sort of like, you know, step one of implementation. But I think ideally, what we would do is essentially have some sort of cohort of students go through, you know, DSIG, like, you know, CSUN Dream Center Task Force vetted opportunities. So far, a few of the DSIG students at CSUN, they pursued it on their own, right? Daniela has one DSIG student, but, you know, again, because of the potential exploitation and microaggressive nature of, you know, just the political climate, we really want to develop some sort of infrastructure, you know, of opportunities for students, so that they feel very comfortable pursuing these things. Again, it's a complex program, but, you know, I think it's an opportunity at the same time. And so, you know, we just hope that all of you will work with us to really build something so that we can roll it out to students. I see Diana.
Right. Just real kind of introduction to those of you who don't know me. I think it's like two of you. But my name is Diana Medina, and I'm actually the Federal Work Study Coordinator here on campus. And I'm also the individual that's currently working to launch our Learning Alignment Program. This spring semester, we're doing a very soft launch, very targeted students. We've finalized our onboarding process with the very elaborate HR financials process. So I think we're ready to go on that. But definitely the DSIG is another program that is in my radar because this does fall under employment programs. So I would definitely want to talk offline with the task force or possibly join your task force. And as you've kind of mentioned, you know, we're kind of maxed out on like people. And so some of you on the call know that I'm also kind of stepping into the interim scholarship position, and hence, you know, our hands are kind of full. But what I did want to suggest on the vetting process that I heard you all talk about, because yes, CSUN is a public institution, and therefore we would qualify for a lot of these opportunities. And so I don't want us to reinvent the wheel. I want us to kind of use the existing infrastructure that we have. So I do have a pretty large list of employers that I already work with when it comes to the Federal Work Study Program. And now we're going to be building another list of our research opportunities with this other program. And so just kind of brainstorming right now off the top of my head, I would like to introduce a DSIG a segment to the mandatory employers workshop that I host annually to the campus. And so we have about a reach of about 120 different departments on campus that actually participate in work study, and potentially already talking to these departments to set up, you know, a DSIG opportunity, you know, where they actually have a job description, so that, you know, we do not get into, as you said, you know, the potential of abuse, that there is clear expectations of what these students will be performing, the type of work. Now, the other piece of this program is that it doesn't have to align with their field of study. And so that is always kind of the tricky part, right? So they can't just be doing a job for job's sake for this program. It does, as you said in the application, the students do have to outline, you know, what is it that they're going to take out of this position. And so just making sure that the student is maximizing on the work experience that they're going to be receiving as it applies to their career or academic goals in terms of their department. So those was, but this is like, thank you guys so much for putting this together. This was great information, a great introduction, and just putting it on the radar here on our campus, because I do agree 100% with everything you guys said. It's underutilized, and we have a potential to maximize it for our population, which is one of the largest in the CSUs and when it comes to our dream students. So kudos to you guys. Bravo.
Thank you for that, Diana. I also want to mention, I just want to move away from saying like work opportunities, because this specifically is volunteer based. And this is where there was confusion, like in the CSU level, when I attended the chancellor's meetings, where there were some campuses that were hiring students through HR and giving them W-2s, when that can, in the long term, impact their immigration status. So again, there's no reason that they should be doing any of that, because it's all funneled through financial aid. It's all through the state. It is all through CSAC. So I just want to make that clarification, because I just don't want to cause any confusion, just as other campuses have seen that. It's all through financial aid. And as Carla mentioned before, the payment is directly to the student through their financial aid package.
Other comments or questions? Daniela, did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Shailene and Diana for also providing additional context on the program, because again, like I think we're all learning as we go and trying to provide these opportunities for our students and us as a task force. And through our collaboration with the task force and the Dream Center, again, we're really trying to kind of create a flow chart, right, to make this process a lot easier for folks, because we understand that it is confusing. And we want to make this as easy as possible for you all, and while also making it accessible to our students. So we'll definitely keep you all in the loop, and definitely let us know if you have any follow-up questions or if any questions arise down the line. As Dr. Buenavista mentioned, I have a DSIG student that I'm currently working with. So I have my own internal process that and that we figured out as far as like keeping track of their hours, making sure that they're checking in and giving me updates on their different projects that they're working on. So I can definitely share that information with you all. I'm more than happy to do that. So feel free to reach out to us. We know this was a lot of information, so feel free to, let us sink in and then come back to us for our next workshop, or even before then, if you want to reach out to us with any questions more specifically. We're definitely open to that.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.